Welcome everyone to the next edition of the Care CEO Success Stories podcast. My name is Adam James of Spin Up PR, and today we have Aneurin Brown, no less, MD of Hallmark Care Homes, which has 22 care homes now around the UK, and anyone in the sector will know of Hallmark. And it's going to be a special episode because Nye is going to be talking about how to come from an unrelated sector, which Nye did. He was in the entertainment sector, become a leader within the care sector quickly. Nye joined, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but he joined Hallmark as a hospitality manager and is now MD. So there's going to be some great insights here. But before we get going, as I said, my name's Adam James of Spring Up PR, and what we do is we help aspirational care providers get the recognition and fame they deserve by PR and marketing methods in order to help get more inquiries from self-funding families and recruit dream care teams. So without any further ado, as they say, I'm delighted to say that we have Aneurin Brown on the podcast. So Nye, welcome. Why don't you start off by telling everyone a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Hi, Adam. Yeah, and thanks for having me. Delighted to be with you on the podcast. I know we've been trying to speak for some time, and I'm really glad that we made it happen eventually, and glad to be here with you today. Yeah, as I say, my name is Aneurin Brown, Managing Director of Hallmark, 22 care homes across the UK, and also one retirement living, our integrated retirement community as well, the Santham residencies, in addition to our care home brand as well. So yeah, responsible for that for Hallmark and for Santham. Care homes located across the country. Strong start for the company in Wales back in 1997. 6 homes still located in Wales, and the rest of our homes located in the southeast, primarily around the M25. So that keeps me nice and busy, Adam.
Without doubt. So, and before we pressed record on this episode, you were telling me about how we're working in the events sector and then moved to the care sector. So, why don't you start off by sharing a little bit more about how you got into the sector from the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I'll start by saying I'm really glad I did. I'm very glad to be in this amazing sector, working with some incredible people. But it all started 10 years ago, coming up to 10 years ago now. A friend of mine working for Hallmark in a senior role was really enjoying it. And, you know, there's lots of talk. And if I can give a plug to someone like Neil Eastwood at Care Friends, and that whole concept of how strong a referral is from a colleague or from a friend, and exactly that happened where a colleague of mine was working at Hallmark, doing really well, enjoying the ethos and the culture of the company, and made me aware of a position which was available. I went along, I was curious, very happy working away in the live events industry. That's kind of what I wanted to do since leaving school. All of my studying and my education led me down that path in terms of live events, and that was great. Very exciting, some great projects to work on there. But I went along out of curiosity, really, to meet with the team that were at then Greenhill Manor Care Home in South Wales for the role of hospitality services manager, having done a little bit of hospitality work in my younger days at a hotel, so kind of had the background there. And honestly, it sounds cliche, but from the moment I stepped over the threshold into the care home, was absolutely hooked on this care home and the vibe of the place, and Hallmark as well, and what Hallmark stood for, because it absolutely smashed every stereotype there was around care homes. There was so much life in the building, there was so much vibrancy. Residents were doing what they wanted to do. They were eating really lovely, good home cooked food. They were going out on trips. They were, everywhere was just life and soul. And I was just hooked from day one and thought, you know what, I want to be a part of this. And so I joined Hallmark, and perhaps I'll tell you a little bit more about the journey. But fast forward 10 years, and I'm now the managing director of the organization I described to you earlier on. So that's kind of how it happened, really, and goes to show the strength of a recommendation, probably.
Yeah, and also I guess what I'm hearing, this sense of this conviction that this is the right place, this is where I should be. Evidently a passion and excitement of being involved that's coming across immediately. So what role would you say that commitment has, that passion has, that drive to in the sector is important to someone who wants to essentially have this as a career and to kind of reach the position which you have reached?
Oh, hugely. I think you have to care. I think you have to enjoy what you do, and you have to really have that commitment to doing things well. One of the things that I really loved, so I came in as a hospitality manager, which you could say has got a fairly narrow remit, looking after housekeeping and catering and front of house and reception, maintenance. But, I made it my business and actually really loved to work with the lifestyles team, the activities team, for example. And we would, turn something that could be quite boring and quite, I'll give you, an example, Shrove Tuesday or National Sandwich Day, there are various initiatives around the year that perhaps our homes teams will get involved with. But for me, it was about how can I work with that person? How can I work with the head of activities and head of lifestyles to make that something different, or make that better than it's ever been before? Or how can we make this Christmas and have from the 1st of December to the 31st of December, we're going to have the best Christmas program that there is in a care home side of the Severn Bridge. So just pushing those boundaries and playing a part. And I think, we also spoke, Adam, about the similarities in terms of sectors. And I think, teamwork is something where, live events relies on some heavy teamwork and some strong teamwork. And likewise in a care home, there's nothing that happens in a good care home by accident. It all happens by design, and it happens through everyone playing their part. So I think that's what appealed to me, was that sense of, a group of people working together for the benefit of the residents and to make life the best it possibly could be in that home.
Yeah. And obviously we all know that this sense of building teams, of commitment, of wanting to do well, of wanting to provide great care does, come from the very top. Is that something that, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I can speak from my own experience, right? And certainly the sort of leader that I want to be and where my grounding is in health and social care, we are incredibly lucky in Hallmark. The ownership of the company, so our chair, Avnish Goyle, many of your listeners will know of Avnish as our chairman in Hallmark, but also as chair of Care England and chair of Championing Social Care and various other positions and roles that he holds. Certainly that commitment that he has to quality and the vision that he has in terms of, our vision in Hallmark is to be recognised as the leading provider of high quality relationship centred care for all residents. And we have many debates about that vision. How are we recognised as the leading provider? What does that recognition look like? In what way does that recognition come? And the reality is that you'll never know. But the fact is that the vision is strong and that we push. We have a strong belief that the job is never done. The day that we stop trying is the day that we probably all go off and do something different. We have, not just in our development program, but we have a strong development program where we're constantly building new homes and pushing those boundaries in terms of the facilities. But also, I think facilities only goes halfway, if even halfway, pushing the standards of care that we provide. Actually, we can have a building that's 20-year-old that provides outstanding care and pushes those boundaries, or we can have a new shiny building that's just opened and likewise they do the same. So I think it's about pushing those boundaries in all of the initiatives that we have going on in Hallmark, and really being as much as we can a beacon for others to follow as well, which we don't keep this stuff to ourselves either. We're very happy to share some of the initiatives that we're up to as well.
Yeah, and so obviously, you've talked about how the teamwork is similarity between the sectors, but it still remains a different sector. And what have you learned, if you are coming from a different sector, are the things that you have to learn, and you have to learn quite quickly?
I think for me, what was really important, I was really lucky in my grounding in health and social care. I don't come from a clinical background. My degree was in theatre and music and media, and I'd worked in a completely unrelated sector. What was really, really important to me, and what I was lucky to have, and I would encourage others to have it as well, is that grounding in the basics of care. Very early on in my career, I was told by my then general manager that I would learn everything. I would not stick to my own discipline. And so very quickly, I found myself auditing care plans, writing care plans, learning how to write a person-centered care plan, doing medication audits, counting tablets, doing investigations, root cause analysis, mental capacity assessments, all the training that was out there I went on. And I think it would be very easy for someone that perhaps was joining the care sector in a specific role to say, no, my role is hospitality. So I'll stick over here in the
Mm,
catering, the housekeeping,
mm,
and all of that,
mm,
and you clinical people stay over there and do that. That wasn't the way for me, and I'd certainly advocate for others not to do that either, because what that did was it gave me a very good grounding as a generalist in the care sector, and actually
mm,
it serves me well now, because I do visits to our care homes, and I can confidently pick up a falls risk assessment
mm,
or a care plan for a specific need, and I can look at it with confidence and know if that care plan is well written, or if that risk assessment considers all the necessary risks and mitigations. And I think for credibility, I don't need to do that, because we have a fantastic team of people in Hallmark that do all of that sort of stuff
mm.
on my behalf, and they're really good at what they do. But it's certainly good for sort of confidence as well, to know that as the managing director, I can go from the boardroom and strategy to picking up a care plan, or looking at the MAR chart and looking for accuracy there. So I think that was really important to me coming into the care sector, was to get that grounding and that real good education of what goes on here, what
Mm,
happens in a care
mm,
home.
mm,
And I was very
mm.
grateful. I was actually, some of my best training was with a nurse, a deputy manager who was nurse qualified, and I would describe her as a real old school nurse, and she taught me some things I will never forget in that,
Mm.
in the clinical world. An incredible lady that I was very fortunate to work with in those early days.
Yeah, I see. And look, describe to me what you think led to your rise within the company, within the provider to MD. I guess there was a wish to get to that level. Is that correct? Or because not everyone would want to do that, to have the responsibility. So tell me a little bit more about what you think it takes to, from what you've learned, again, for those who are listening who want to, aspire to being heading a care provider of the size of Hallmark, what does it take from what do you feel that you've learned?
Well, first of all, there was no plan.
Mm,
It just sort of happened quite organically. But I found myself in a number of positions where there was a job to be done. Somebody had left the company and there was a vacancy. And I found myself thinking, I wonder if I should. And I
mm,
put my hand up and I said, excuse me, could I do that, please? I'd like to do that role. And through the, internal interview process, yeah, you can do that. You qualified and you can do that role. And that's happened a number of times in Hallmark, where there's been perhaps a business need. And I've said, hand up, can I do that,
yeah,
please? And being brutally honest, Adam, not always been sort of qualified or
mm,
indeed the right person to do it, perhaps, but had the will and kind of that mindset of what I don't know, I'll find out.
yeah,
I will learn on the job, or, I'll give it 100% commitment and sort of see what happens. And that's fortunately served me well, because I always had good outcomes. I think probably born out of that is that, firstly, that mindset of I'll give it a go, please. Can
mm,
you trust me to give it a go? Obviously very lucky that the leadership team within Hallmark said yes and did trust me to do that. But I think hard work as well.
mm,
There's no denying that in some of these situations, and when you're stepping up into roles and different roles, hard work, determination, grit, a lot of long days,
sure, of
but
course,
also enjoyment as well, because I think
yeah,
I'm a firm believer that you can't do that those sorts of roles unless you enjoy it. So
yeah,
you have to
sure.
enjoy your work. Work hard but enjoy your work, and just see where the journey takes you. I think that's been my recipe anyway.
Yeah, so but you came in with hospitality manager, and what roles did you
Try
have?
and recall my CV. Hospitality manager. I then went to be a health and safety manager.
Right?
I'd always had qualifications in health and safety, something which excited me, and again tried to, I was health and safety manager for a couple of years, but tried to do it different, because stereotypes again of health and safety, and how perhaps health and safety can be boring, and health and safety can be, you can't do this and you can't do that. So try to just turn that on its head and say, actually, let's do safety differently. I'm actually a chartered health and safety professional with IOSH, and still maintain that membership is really important to me. But just try to do it differently, put a different spin on safety, and say, actually, let's make safety an enabler. Let's make health and safety the reason why we can do things. And we started doing, looking back now, they're not so weird and wonderful, but at that time, we started doing fireworks displays in the care homes, and they'd been
Mm,
banned because our previous safety advisor had said, no, we can't do fireworks displays. And we took residents rock climbing, and we took residents skiing, and we took residents on a boat and did jet skiing, and all sorts of stuff that I was involved with that weren't paperwork, risk assessments, method statements, boring. Let's make it happen. And that's what I did. And I really loved that job. From there, took on the role of head of health and safety estates. So took on the entire estates department, looking after maintenance and refurbishments across the estate. From there, took on hospitality, managed our regional hospitality team, including the executive chef. And then kind of from there, ventured into operations, became a regional director of my own small region in England, first of all. And then from there to operations director, and then from there to COO, and then from there to MD. So it's been a real kind of education and building blocks of learning a bit of the business, letting that bed in, learning another bit of the business, letting that bed in, and until the whole sort of circle was complete, really, which I'm, again, really fortunate, because there isn't a particular area of the business that I don't know a reasonable amount about, or haven't worked there and done a bit of it myself, which kind of helps me to relate, I think, to the different disciplines and the different areas of the business.
Yeah, fascinating. And in all of this, what have you feel perhaps that you've brought from your entertainment experience into your role as MD now?
I think in addition to some of the stuff I mentioned of the kind of the transferable skills,
Yeah.
one of the things that I think most is the kind of can-do attitude. So, you know, if you think about theatre, television, you can make anything happen, right?
Yeah.
If you have a budget and you have the right team and you have the right equipment, you can make anything happen.
Yeah.
And I think that can-do attitude of we can do anything. I'll give you an example. During COVID, we were launching, really bad luck, we launched one of our care homes, Hutton View in Essex. Lockdown happened and we're thinking, oh dear, how do we launch this care home? We've always been known for having really great launch parties, everyone gathering, speeches, entertainment, etc., etc. So, okay, lockdown, how do we do this? So we met as a team and we were discussing how we were going to launch the care home on Zoom, and it was going to be a laptop, and turn the laptop and turn the computer, and I just thought we can't do this. We have to do this properly. Obviously, coming from a television background, so actually what we ended up doing was a full multi-camera outside broadcast with a production gallery, a satellite video uplink, virtual tours, live presenters, talk back. We did it properly as a proper launch with me in the gallery producing and directing that live across the sector. And as far as I know, the first ever live care home launch in the sector, which I'm really proud of, that we made that happen, right? And I think it would be too easy to say, oh well, COVID's come, lockdown's come, we'll have to have a launch sometime in the future. Let's forget about it now and move on. But I think, and also that, I have to acknowledge the team as well for coming along with me and saying, okay, because they take all these weird and wonderful ideas and just go, yeah, let's do it, which is wonderful as well. So
yeah. That's right. How very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And another question that came to mind, what's, in terms of things that haven't gone well, how have you handled those, in terms of, share as much or as little as you like here, but in terms of when things have really been hard for you as an MD, how have you coped with it? How have you got through whatever that situation may be?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think what's important to acknowledge is, we all have good days and bad days, right? Sometimes things go well, sometimes things don't go well. I think for me, what really helped me is, and I mentioned it right at the start, is the incredible community that we have within social care. And particularly in the managing director's role, what's really helped me is that support network. I think we have to acknowledge as leaders that we've never all got all the answers. And there can be a pressure, can't they, on senior leaders, that you may think to yourself, oh, I have to know the answers all of the time. The reality is that as human beings, we've never got all of the answers all of the time. And I think just having that support network of people that you can call, people that you can send a WhatsApp to and say, I'm on a rubbish day, this has happened. What do you do about this? How does your company deal with that? And what I found is, actually, it was quite unique in the social care sector, is people are willing to share. Very often I'll get a message from somebody to say, hi, Nye, how is Hallmark dealing with this? And I'll reply and I'll tell them, because there's no secret. If I can help somebody, I will. So I think the big thing for me is having someone to talk to, and I'm lucky within Hallmark, again, with our shareholders. They're very active in the business. They're there if I need them. Otherwise, they do their thing. But having that support around you to go, one hand in the air, I need help, or just it can be a trivial question sometimes, can't it? Something can be niggling you, or you even think, I don't think we're doing this right, or I don't think we're quite hitting the mark with that, and just chatting it through with somebody can give you so much insight.
Yeah, very, very interested to hear that. Great, thank you. Now, I know that you wanted to talk about the careers initiatives you are doing, and I think for any care provider listening, this should be of interest. So, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this is an initiative called the Care Careers Conference. And it's an initiative that's been supported by the Hallmark Care Homes Foundation,
Yeah.
which is our charitable foundation linked to Hallmark. And we're partnering with Working Options and arranging the first ever, that we're aware of, conference of this type in London. It'll be held on the 7th of March this year. And what this is in social care, we read a lot of headlines, don't we, about the crisis in recruitment and the crisis in the workforce within social care, which is absolutely true. But what we felt was, rather than be political about it, and rather than stand on our soapbox and join in the concern about the workforce crisis, as the Hallmark Care Homes team, through the Hallmark Care Homes Foundation, that we would do something about it, or at least try to do something about it. And I think that's really important as well, because it's incumbent on all of us. If we're in a crisis, using emotive language like a crisis, well, in a crisis, you try and get yourself out of a crisis. And so what we've done is arranged a great lineup of speakers, but not just speakers, but people that work in social care, young people that work in social care, and that absolutely love it. Day in, day out, they work in various roles, whether they're roles in care, housekeeping, catering, hospitality, management, even down to IT roles within care, because our technology in care now is huge. And we've got people in Hallmark, young people again, that are making a career out of working in IT within care. So we've got all those people lined up to take part in this conference. It's a really exciting day. We've got over 1,000 people, 1,000 young people joining that conference, either in person or virtually, with their teachers, with their careers advisors, to really put careers in care on the map. Because certainly, when I was in school and making those big decisions in life, social care never featured. It wasn't a career that somebody said, you could go into this sort of career. It could be a lifelong career. You can earn a really good wage. These are the benefits of working in the sector. It just didn't feature. So I think that's what we're aiming for, is just to turn the heads of these young people to say, that sounds really exciting. I want to learn more. If we do that, then mission accomplished. And, obviously there's a benefit there to providers, and we have various care providers coming along on the day. But there's a benefit to wider society as well, because we all know that we need to attract our workforce into the sector to provide care for the older people in many years to come.
Yeah, 100%. It's I know of course it's top of mind for every single provider. So thank you, very, very, very interesting. And is there anything that you would like to say that you've not covered up to now, Nye?
I don't think so. I think my only kind of, if you were to ask me my parting words, maybe in terms of people that we've talked a lot about my career in care, perhaps an unsuspecting career within care.
Yeah.
And also just finished off there with the talking about the younger people. I think my sort of advice would be, never stay in your swim lane. There's no reason for you to. Had I stayed and said, no, my role is hospitality and I'm only going to do hospitality, then, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way, but I could still be in a care home in South Wales working as a hospitality manager. That's fine if that's what I want to do. But if somebody is aspirational, get out of your swim lane. Some people call it being nosy. I call it being curious. And, be curious about different roles, be curious about different jobs, and just put yourself out there and put your hand up in the air, and don't be afraid to volunteer for different roles and different positions. Would be my advice to anyone that maybe is looking for a career within care.
Fabulous, Nye. Thank you. And finally, if anyone would like to contact you, how best can they do that?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. Happy people to find me on LinkedIn, Aneurin Brown or Nye. Send me a direct message. I'm very happy to connect and to exchange email addresses, etc. on LinkedIn.
No, thank you so much for being on the Care CEO Success Stories podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.